In this session, I want to talk about track maps, which are very useful in motion graphics. In the motion graphic that you see, it is made using the track map method, which I will explain. To create this motion, we need an image that we downloaded from FreePic website. I searched cell phone and found this image. Opened it in the Illustrator, and according to the description I mentioned before, I put each of the components that we want to animate in a separate layer. We also changed the name of this layer. Adjust the size of document from this section, which is set to 1080 by 1080, which is the standard size of post on Instagram. Create a new project in After Effects. Double click on this section and open the Illustrator file in the program. Select composition and layer size. Double click on the composition. Now I want to animate the components on the phone screen. I want each of them to enter the phone screen from different angles. For example, I want this search box to appear from the above, these two squares from the right and left, and so on. We like the layers we don't want to animate so that they don't move accidentally. Press Ctrl A to select the other layers. We want to animate the position of these layers, so we press Alt Shift P to create a keyframe for all layers. Zoom in on the timeline a little bit. A few frames later, all these components should be in the same position. So in this frame, we click on one of these buttons to create a keyframe for all the layers. We don't need to create a keyframe for all layers individually. We can select all of them, and with one click, keyframes will be created for all layers. I move the CTI to the first frame, hold Shift, and take this search box out of the cell phone. Hold the Shift and move this square to the right. Again, with Shift, and place this square here. Shift and put it here, for example. This one is the same again. These two squares appear at the bottom of the phone screen, for example. Now if I zoom out a bit and play the animation, you will see that we were able to make such an animation. If you feel that this motion is happening too slowly, you can select these keyframes and move it to the left to increase the speed. You can even move the keyframes to make the components appear randomly. For example, the search box will appear first, then the bottom square, and so on. Or even adjust their speed randomly. Play the animation. This is what we achieved. I prefer that they all appear together, so press Ctrl Z several times. Well, now the problem is that these components appear on the hand, and we don't want to see them off the screen. In this case, we have to mask the phone screen so that the components are not displayed outside the screen. If our phone was simple and these fingers didn't exist, we could use the rectangle tool to mask the phone screen. Imagine there are no fingers here and we only have the phone screen. Draw a rectangle like this. I place this layer on top of the other layers. Press Ctrl A to select all layers. U to hide the layers keyframe, and F2 to deselect the layers. In the track map section in the timeline, if you don't see this section from the bottom, click on the second option to display them. Now in the track map section of the search layer, we must select the first option, Alpha. In front of the Alpha is written the name of the top layer, which here is Shape Layer 1. If you want, you can change its name. Move CTI. If you pay attention to the search box, it will not be seen outside the phone now, and will only be displayed inside the phone screen. If I put it in none mode, you will see that it's here. But when I put it in alpha mode, you will see that it disappears and you will no longer see it outside the phone screen. You must do this for all the layers. We need to copy the mask layer and place it on top of all these layers, and set the track map to alpha. Suppose I want to do this for this square here. I take a duplicate from this layer with Ctrl D and place it on the top of the square layer and set the track matte of this square layer on alpha. The problem here is that because our mask layer is rectangle and doesn't cover the fingers, part of the square appears on the fingers, which is wrong and we have to fix it. To solve this problem, instead of using a rectangle, we should use the pen tool. I will delete this mask, also this one, and set the track matte of this layer to none. Take CTI to the first frame. I select the pen tool. Its shortcut is G from the keyboard. And just like we did for the teapot in the previous session, we do the same for this phone and select all around the phone. I click on this point till here. I click here and move it without releasing the mouse to draw this curve. Hold down Alt and move this handle. You learned this in the previous session and now it's a reminder. You can temporarily remove the fill color or keep it, but in general, this mask must have fill color, otherwise it will not work properly. We draw our lines exactly on the line of this phone. Hold Shift to draw a straight line. My suggestion is to temporarily remove the fill color and re-enable the fill color when we are done to draw these lines, so we have more control over the job. Hold Alt and put it here. And so do it to the end. You must carefully choose around the fingers. You can use this technique to select the glass of a moving car and create a reflect light on it. The track matte technique is widely used in motion graphics, so practice hard to become a professional. Finally, I click on this point to create our mask. This is why I say the fill color of this mask must be active. Let me show you practically. Here, for example, if I put the search layer on alpha, because the mask layer doesn't have fill color, the search box will not be displayed. Also, the mask layer is created and the track matte of the bottom layer is on alpha, the search box is hidden. This is because the mask layer doesn't have a fill color. I set the mode of this layer to none. Select the pen tool and select the color from the fill color section. Its color doesn't matter and can be any color. Set the mode of this layer to alpha mode again. Now if you pay attention to the animation, you will see that our search box appears from inside the phone screen, and there is no problem. You can also rename this layer. Press Enter on this layer and type your desired name. For example, search mask. This layer is actually a mask layer, which is also called alpha mask. You can duplicate this layer with Ctrl D and place it on top of the square layer. The reason you have to copy this layer and place it on top of each layer is because the track matte takes a mask from its top layer. Let me move this layer up. For example, if I don't have a copy of the mask layer and I want to alpha this rectangle, the top layer will be masked, which is the search layer. And we don't want to mask this layer, and this is completely wrong. So for the alpha mask to work properly, we have to place it on the top of each layer separately, and then alpha the said layer. I will rename this layer Rectangle Mask 1. And I set the rectangle layer on alpha. Now if you look closely, this square is also properly masked. Ctrl D and place it on top of the rectangle 2 and alpha this layer. You see, this square was also masked. Ctrl D, move the layer. Be careful not to alpha the mask layer. The bottom layer must be alpha, otherwise it will not work. If I zoom in a bit on the screen, you will see that the square is displayed correctly. It is inside the screen and behind the fingers. I copy this layer again and place it on top of the rectangle fork and make it alpha. I repeat this for the other layers as well. It must be on the top of the target layer, otherwise it will not work. Now if I hit the V button on the keyboard and click here and move the CTI, you will see that all the components displayed only inside the phone screen and are no longer displayed outside the screen. Now I want to animate the light effect on the phone screen. Just like a car is moving and the light is moving on the car windshield. I want to start this effect after this animation is over. Press F2 to deselect the layers. Select the pen tool or press G from the keyboard. When the star is displayed next to the mouse, it means that the shape is drawn in a separate layer. Click here to create a point. Hold Shift to create a straight line. Till here. Hold Shift again and click here, and finally click on the first point. Press V to select the selection tool. If you move this shape, you will see that it covers the whole phone. We can use this shape as moving lights. Now we need to animate this shape. Put it outside the phone screen. We want after these components have appeared, for example in second 1, its position change. Press Alt Shift P to create a position keyframe. Move CTI to a few frames later, for example here. In this frame, we move this shape and put it here. You see, we have such an animation. I want this shape to be displayed only inside the phone screen. For this purpose, I get a duplicate from this search mask layer. I move this layer and place it on the top of the shape layer and change its name. I type light mask. I also change the name of the bottom layer. Type light. Now you have to put the light layer on Luma instead of alpha. First, I choose the alpha to feel the difference. As you can see, when I put it on the alpha, the contents below it are not clear, and I see this layer in white. This is not what I'm looking for. We have to choose Luma. Luma works based on the color spectrum. In Luma, color is important, but in alpha, color is not very important, except in the example you see. Before we move on the Luma option, let me explain the other options. If it's on the no track matte, nothing will happen. Alpha is like this. If I select alpha inverted, inverts the mask. It means it shows this shape everywhere except inside the screen. The next option is Luma. If I move the CTI, you will see it's like the alpha. If you are newbie and you are not familiar with these options, you may think that the After Effects program has a bug and doesn't work properly, but you're wrong. If I select the Luma inverted option, you will see that it's like alpha inverted option. But the Luma usage is completely different. So as I said, Luma works based on the color spectrum. Select the mask layer. The color of this layer is white. I change the color. The more I move to the black, the more you see the bottom layer being fade. If I put it on black, the bottom layer will disappear completely. If I put it on white, you will see the bottom layer. If you put between these two colors, you will see the layers with half transparency. Don't try other colors and choose between white and black. You can see that we were able to create this effect on the mobile screen. So in Luma mode, the color of the mask is very important, and the color of the top layer determines how we see this layer. I put the color of the bottom layer on white to change the color of the light. Now if I set the top layer color to white, you can see the bottom layer. If it's on black, it disappears completely. But if it's in between white and black, you can see the bottom layer with transparency. You can see that we were able to create such a light movement effect on mobile screen. We can repeat this effect twice. For example, until this frame is outside the mobile screen. In this frame, we click on this button to create a keyframe. Copy these keyframes and press Ctrl arrow key to move one frame forward. And then Ctrl V to paste. Play the animation. See? If I press N from the keyboard, we can set the end of the work area. Press Home to move the CTI to the first frame and play the animation by space key. You see that we were able to create such an animation using track matte technique. So track mattes are very important in motion graphics. Practice well because we will use them a lot in our motion graphics. The point I forgot to mention about track matte is that the top layer or mask layer is in the form of a mask icon, and the bottom layer is transparent, and the mask layer is automatically hidden. If I display the top layer, you will see that the track matte is not working properly. Therefore, always the mask layer must be hidden. To see if the After Effects program does this automatically, I set this layer to none and show the top layer as well. When I select Luma, several things happen. The bottom layer becomes transparent, the top layer becomes masked, and the After Effects hides the top layer automatically. I hope you enjoyed learning this session. Thanks for watching.